So George, why do you help your son create a podcast like this?
Yeah, I just have to go back to sort of the beginning of everything for me. 2 weeks before my dad died, he told me, "Don't miss Leo's games. I miss too many of yours," and and that hit me really hard because I realized that I was on track to become version two of him. I built successful businesses. I've generated over $400 million in online sales, but the businesses, they all still depended on me more than it should, and what I see now is that a lot of founder dads, they're winning in business, but while they're slowly drifting at home, the business gets the best of them and the family gets what's left. So today I help founder dads remove themselves as the bottleneck so they can grow the business without sacrificing what matters most. And in my case, that's time with my son. And one of the best things that I can do with him is help him learn skills that'll serve him for life, help him be more confident when he's communicating in public, and even communicating with his peers, communicating with adults. And there's no better vehicle than podcasting to do that. And so, yeah, all that kind of ties together.
I think that's so wonderful, but many dads think that's impossible. And probably you did too. So what changed besides your father telling you that? Like, how did you actually get from being super busy to actually being able to spend more time with your son?
Yeah. So, most founder led businesses, they don't have a revenue problem. They have what I call a dependency problem. The business still runs through them, things like decisions, approvals, problem solving. So even when they're growing, it feels heavier than it should. And that weight doesn't just stay at work, it follows you home. And so, like, here's what nobody tells you: the business doesn't take your family from you all at once. It happens in these small moments, like the dinners where your phone is still on the table, like the games where you show up, but you're not really there. You're still kind of solving problems at work, or the questions that your kids stop asking because they already know the answer. And one day you look up and you realize that your family has learned to live without you. And it's not because they want to, but because you trained them to. And the man who doesn't fix this doesn't lose his business, he loses his family, and he never sees it coming.
Mm, mm. And have you seen that more and more with the rise of technology? Because in the past, right, you had the office and you had your home, right? So as soon as you were out of the office, it's harder for you to still think about the business. Right now, you have your cell phone, and I carry my business in my laptop. I carry my business in my phone. So have you seen a rising in this, like, mixing between life and business, and how it doesn't stop?
Yeah, absolutely. The business doesn't stay at work anymore. Oftentimes, or yeah, more often than not, it does follow you home. Like you're at dinner with your family, but your mind is still in the business. Your phone's buzzing, and suddenly you're not really there anymore. Even though your body's there, your family has your body, but the business still has your attention. And that's what most guys don't realize is happening. And the big lie that they keep telling themselves is, "I'll make it up to them later." But later has a way of becoming never. And yeah, with the rise of technology, making it easier to work from home. And of course, COVID really uprooted that and accelerated that trend. Now we've got our issues in the palm of our hand 24/7. And that just pretty much owns the mind, and it owns our attention.
So how do you start putting boundaries on that?
Yeah. So to really, like, get yourself out of that, first you have to know your reason why is it that you want to do this to begin with. And there's some steps to take, and where you start establishing those boundaries. First, we need to identify where you are the bottleneck. Why are things coming to you? And I'm not talking about just in tasks, but in decisions, approvals, in the fires that only you can put out. Most founders are shocked by how much still routes through them. The second thing is we have to, like, we have to rebuild how things get owned so they stop coming back to you. This isn't just delegation, it's redesigning how your business makes decisions without you in the room. And then the third thing is that's going to impact how you start showing up. You start showing up differently at home because the business no longer needs you in every little thing. And the energy that you used to leave at the office starts coming home with you. And so that's the sequence. It's not complicated. It's just different from what, most people have been doing.
Could you share your steps on how you did it? And could you go like again more specific of like, did you hire someone? Did you just stop doing it? Like what happened to you?
Yeah. I'll tell you my situation here. So this is 2018, and I'm scaling to numbers that I never ever imagined I would do. Literally printing money. Had more money than I knew what to do with. But I was working 90 hours a week, and I was hating life. And I know hate's a strong word, but I was hating it because of what it was doing, to my family. It was ripping my family away from me. And so, yeah, I got to the point where I wanted to do one of two things. I either wanted to sell it or I wanted to burn the thing down. Selling it's a multi-year process, and burning it down isn't so smart. So I had a coach and a mentor tell me, stop doing what you don't like doing and keep doing what you're good at. And that's when it finally hit me. And that's when I started doing the work that I now help other men do as well. And so the first thing that I did is I had to get clear on what all I was doing. And when I had a list of everything that I did, I had to run it through a filter. That filter is my dollar per value hour. I call it the 10K per hour filter, but every founder is going to use a filter that's applicable to them. Somebody listening might say, "Hey, my time's worth 20,000 an hour." We'll use that number. Or others might be more on the lower end, just getting going. Maybe it's $100 an hour or $150 an hour. Whatever that number is, run it through that filter. When I did that, I recognized that 40 of the hours that I was working was $50 an hour or under tasks. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but $50 per hour times 40 hours a week equals $2,000 per week. For a business that was generating multiple eight figures, that's a very, very small investment to get almost half of my time back. So I realized when I did that, I got my time back, and those extra 50 hours, because remember, I was working 90 hours, cut out 40, now I got 50, compressed down to 20 hours. Because now I'm working in what I call my zone of genius. This was the stuff that I was born to do, bring revenue to the business. And so when I'm working those crazy 90 hours, yeah, my zone of genius stuff is going to take a long time. When I have all that stuff off my plate that I shouldn't be doing, that reduces stress, that reduces what I call context switching. And that means interruptions from your team because you didn't properly show them how to do stuff. And I'm working on my zone of genius. I get interrupted. I come over here, solve the problem. Then I come back and I'm like, where did I leave off? And it takes about 30 minutes to get back into the flow. So if you get interrupted 10 times, that's many hours of interruptions, and that's low productivity. So that helped me take my workload from 90 hours a week to around 20 hours a week, never more than 30 hours a week. And that's what I did. And so once I got those things off of my plate, there's this big list of things I should never do. What do I do with that? I run it through what I call the time liberation trifecta. And that's eliminate anything that doesn't move the needle. That's automate anything that repeats. And then it's delegate with ownership. That's the third one. And so, there's a lot of things that we're doing on a daily basis that we can just eliminate. It doesn't move the needle, and we can just get rid of it. Things like multiple meetings, that's a simple example, but every business is specific. And then automation with AI, it's easier today than ever, and it's going to get easier every single day. It changes every day. So there's a lot of things we can do there. And then delegation with ownership, and delegating the outcomes is the way that you delegate, and you don't have to revisit it for a certain period of time. And the easiest way to explain that is the old way of delegation. I used to say, hey, do this task, and it would just eventually boomerang back up to me. I might as well call it delayed involvement instead of delegation. It's going to come back to me. That's not proper delegation.
Wait. I wanna. What did you say just now? So you say like giving tasks is. I love that term. Could you say it one more time?
Yeah. So the old way of delegation, at least in my case, was delegating tasks. And then it's just a matter of time before I'm boomerang back in. roped back in. And I might as well call it delayed involvement because it's a matter of time before I have to step in. And that contributes to context switching, which is a killer of productivity, like I said earlier. And so the proper way to delegate is delegating the outcome, delegate with ownership. So you're giving them the liberty to get to the result quicker if they can figure it out. And there's a process of doing that we can get into if you like, but at a high level, that is the process. Once you do all that, you start to get your freedom back. You start to get your time back. And once you start to get a little bit of your time back, you get addicted to the process of getting your time back. And you're going to want to do that to everything you possibly can. And my suggestion is once you get your time back, don't just sit around, figure out what to do. If you have a family, that's where your time should go. And there's a process and framework to re-engage with your family as well. But yeah, that's what I did to get my time back. And life has been great ever since.
Mm, that was golden, right? And I think many people, including myself, I confuse of okay, like I let them do their thing, but at the end, they do a mistake, and I've tried, for example, asking them, okay, like get to their own conclusions and what do you think? But they're still at a point sometimes where they're asking for my approval because they don't want to be wrong, because I've given them too much of the stick. If we compare sticks and carrots, like sticks, punishment, and carrots being prices, I think I've given them too much stick, and that's why like they still fearing for the approval. So how do you handle that for a team that has been like bashed in their head because they don't do the things right?
Yeah, so there's a bit of an adjustment that needs to happen there. And sometimes, and oftentimes, it's the founder. There's identity issues that goes way deeper than probably what we're discussing now. But that can involve, some trauma and some childhood wounds that have never fully healed. Like I'll just go super high level on mine, was always seeking the approval of my father, and I never seemed to get it. And so once I had my own business, where was I getting approval from? From my team. So I was being the firefighter for my team. They'd say, George, can you help me with this? And I'm like, I want recognition and I want people to love me. So yes, I will do that for you. And they'll praise me as the boss who handles their job. But that's the poorest form of leadership, because while I was filling up my ego and getting my dopamine hit from being approved, I wasn't teaching them proper ways to think and come to conclusions on their own. So, everybody has multiple jobs and roles in their life. And when they go to their next job, what are they going to say? Oh, I always just ask George and he solved the problem. Is that going to serve them in their next, step in their career? Absolutely not. So I learned, in order for me to be a good leader, I had to empower my team to make decisions on their own and to think on their own. And how you do that is you install guardrails. You basically tell them, if it's within here, you are capable to make the decision on your own. If it steps out of there, then you must approach me in a structured way. And that means, here's what I'm doing, here's what I've tried, here are some suggestions, and then what do you think? And then oftentimes, as they go through that process, they'll likely figure the answer for themselves. And so that's the best way that I know to empower your team to make decisions and have them come up with their own solutions. And that creates an environment where they feel appreciated, loved, seen, heard, and valuable contribution to the company and to the team.
Mm. Yeah, it's again, it's not just like saying, okay, now you figure it out and just leaving it, but it's like, as you can say, is creating a structure for them to actually succeed.
Absolutely. And, it's not like we're setting it up, give it to them, and we're abandoning them. We're empowering them to make decisions on their own. And if they have questions, concerns, they come in a structured format. And then my suggestion is, and this is different from every business, but have a once a week, 15-minute meeting with your team that says, you have questions, concerns, this is the time to come and bring it. We're not going to talk about how was your weekend or how's the weather. We're going to get to the bottom line of what's the issue you're facing. How do we overcome it? And then off we go. And that helps them bring all of their concerns in one structured setting. It helps you, the founder, to want to engage in that moment. And it's not the random context switching that we talked about earlier. And yeah, that in my experience creates a very happy working environment.
Mm. And probably less stressful because they're also not having to come to you and waiting on you to actually solve their thing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, reducing stress, reducing anxiety. It all ties to the bottom line essentially.
Nice. Now let's go back to your family. So how did you start re-engaging with your family?
Yeah, so that's a good question because once you get your time back, then it's like, all right, what are we doing all this for? We're doing it for the family. So it's got to be important that you don't, the founder doesn't slip back into, let me do other things for the business. Now, if it fits within the calendar that you've set up to work, which my suggestion is 30 hours a week or less, then absolutely do it. But the other time that we fought so hard to give back to our family, we need to protect that. And so, just like the bond wasn't broken with the family overnight, it took a series of, yeah, I'll be there at the game. Oops, I can't make it. Or, yes, I'll be there. Oh, no, sorry, business fire. It's not going to be reversed or fixed in one big moment. A lot of founders, they'll try to say, hey, we're going to Disney World and it's going to be a great trip. And sure, do that. I think they'll have fun, but don't think that doing that's going to fix everything down the line. It's going to be small little promises with consistency that you keep over time is how you're going to restore the bond with the family. First thing you want to do is tell them, but telling them, they're going to say, oh yeah, we've heard that before, but you want to tell them and then follow through with action consistently. And if you mess up, and there's a chance that people will, because we're human, ask for forgiveness quickly, you make it up to them, and then you continue with consistency. Don't let it get you off track.
Something that was really powerful recently, and it's not business, but it's part of like I'm part of men's groups. We were in a men's group when we met, but I've recognized that it's not the big celebration moments. I was just in a wedding of one of the guys. Wonderful event, having some of the guys together, and it feels really good and really nice. But the core is that we're meeting every single week. We're investing 1 hour of our time every single week for 5 years, right? That is what actually compounds. So it's the same with your family. If you're not investing at least 1 to 3 hours, 30 hours that you say per week to that, like how do you expect it to be a happy family?
Yeah, exactly. And we all say we're doing it for the family, but my favorite saying after that is like, well, did they ask you to do that specifically? And so, yeah, if we say we're doing it for the family, then let's be intentional about reconnecting and restoring that bond.
So now go back to you. So what did you do, or how did you experience when you start getting connection back with your family? Like what did you start doing? What has changed from 80-hour weeks into maybe 30-hour weeks, and what do you actually do with your family now?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I got my time back, essentially, you were able to travel more, and travel wasn't really an issue or concern in the past. I was always there, but my mind was always somewhere else. So now when we traveled, I'm fully present. Like, for example, this is, yeah, pushing 10 years ago. We were in France visiting, Paris and in the Eiffel Tower, like one of the most beautiful structures ever created. And if you see the pictures of our family at the Eiffel Tower, you'll see me and my phone, trying to put out fire, some emergency, and I got the Eiffel Tower standing right there. Fast forward to after implementing all this stuff, haven't been back to the Eiffel Tower, but other amazing places. You're going to see me fully present, smiling, and connected with my family. And so that's been the biggest shift, is just presence. One of my favorite moments, Leo was about 8 years old, and we're looking at property on our home in northern Michigan. I'm in one of my properties right now in Michigan. We met in Texas, but I'm in Michigan right now. And we do Airbnbs as a byproduct of the cash flow from the main business. So we're looking at another home that just came on the market, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this house is going to be the competition to our current house, which is like known as the top luxury house on the market. And I'm thinking in my head, this price is like low compared to what I'm used to in Austin, Texas. So we're just going to buy it. I already know the numbers. And so unless this thing's a bundle of sticks, we're going to buy it. So we go to the house, walk in for the first time, and the realtor's there waiting. We're looking around. We like it. Realtor gives us a few minutes to discuss as a family, to give you privacy to sort of like, what do you think? And all this stuff. And the old me would have told my son, hey son, here's an iPad, there's a couch, go play your hearts out. But I'm like, nope, this is the new me. I said, son, you're going to make the offer. We're going to close in 30 days. Here's the price we're going to pay. Leave the furniture, leave the dock, because this is a lake house rental. It'll save us like 100,000. Now go make the offer. And then he's just like, what am I doing? And I was like, just go. We'll debrief later. And then, he walks in and he's talking to the realtor, and he's like, has these big eyes, like this little kid's talking closing dates and docs and all this stuff. And he looks at me, he doesn't say anything, but with his eyes, he's asking me, is that the offer? And I said, yep, the whippersnapper spoke, and we got the house. And I love, thinking about the legacy impact of that, because it's not just, memories, but it's transfer. It's something that he's going to do one day with his kids. He's going to be like, grandpa used to take me to make offers, so you kids are going to make the offer. And yeah, and those are things that he'll keep with him for life. And like current day, like I said, he's got a podcast. He's 11. He started this as a 10-year-old, and we're up to nearly 100 people interviewed. I mean, if we go through everybody on the books, we'll be like at 120. So he's like a month out, on his schedule for bookings, which is really cool. And yeah, he's interviewing millionaires, founders, people with amazing stories, keynote speakers, people who've overcome, cancer to do amazing things. And yeah, and the main thing, he's just learning how to build his confidence. He's learning how to talk to adults. He's asking great questions. He's curious, and he's extracting like really gold and wisdom from his guests that will not only serve him but his audience. And so yeah, it's a great platform, and this is all stuff, like I said, it's going to serve him for life. He'll never have to worry about work if he keeps this up. As hosting a podcast, it opens doors in relationships like nothing else can. And so that's the main thing, is keep with this, and you should be fine. But yeah, the whole starting a podcast and even like the real estate deals, like that's just evidence of a present dad in a child's life, because his trajectory was going to be, just another kid on an iPhone that, is looking at the phone and doesn't know how to look up and say hello, shake somebody's hand, and all that. But now he's talking to, like I said, millionaires, founders, business people. Like, it's crazy. He's light years ahead of other kids his age. And I say that respectfully, and it's a sad thing that, those kids, are so tied into technology, they can't really engage with the world, that once he's, 17, 18, 19, and he's out there trying to start a career, well, hopefully he's already had it started with the podcast, but the other kids are going to be like, I don't know what to do, because I had my head in my phone the whole time, or in my computer. And so I think when kids realize at an early age that they can do these things, it's going to serve them very well.
Powerful. Yeah, really good. So you have kids, legacy. How about your relationship with your wife and partners?
Yeah, that's a big one. A lot of founders confuse, peace at home, and things are quiet, that everything's okay. But it can also mean that there's resentment and there's a drift, and it doesn't happen overnight. Like I've said earlier, the bond with the family, same thing, bond with the wife, with the spouse, doesn't break in one big moment. It's small drifting over time. And one day you realize she stopped asking for your attention. She stopped bringing you her concerns. She stopped making requests for things. And yeah, it's something that men have to wake up and realize. The average woman thinks 2 years about divorcing their husband before they actually say, that they want to end the marriage. So it's not an overnight problem. It's a problem that's cooking, it's brewing over time. And if founders don't wake up and realize that, they can find themselves in a position where their wife's gonna leave them. The wife usually takes the children. And do you like the idea of another man raising your kids? I know that's kind of a painful thought, but that's like worst case scenario out of this stuff. In addition to losing access to your children, there's half of your net worth gone. And like a lot of founders can't recover from that. Some do, but it's a tough situation. So if it is your intention to keep your family together, because you say you're doing it for the family, you need to re-engage with them and pick up on the signs and do something about it before it's too late.
Yeah, no, 100%. And It's why do you work right now? Based on your own ethos, why do you work right now?
Yeah, I feel like I was put on this earth to wake up other founder dads to the fact that, you can always make more money, but you can never redo a childhood. And that goes, with the family as well. It could be that, the wife, for example, like you need to capture these moments while they're here and don't take it for granted. Specifically with the kids, my company is called 18 Summers Advisory. You only get 18 summers with your kids, and that's at day zero. Most founders, when they hear the concept of 18 summers, they're doing the math in their head. Oh my gosh, I got 3 summers left, or one, or I'm out of summers. And so my objective is to help wake them up. Like my dad told me at his deathbed, don't miss Leo's games. I missed too many of yours. I've never heard on the deathbed somebody say, I'm so glad I missed your game for that client meeting. At that point, they won't even remember the name of the client, most likely, but they will remember whether or not they made it to the games. And so, while we're all going to have regrets later down in life, that's just human nature. The goal is to minimize them. And once you hear this and you're aware, now you have to do something about it. And if you don't, then you're just, you're being willfully ignorant, and that's not a great place to be. Um, my message for founder dads is you need to be present for your kids because they're not always going to be this young, and you're developing their mindset for the future. If it's like a boy, you're training your replacement in this world. If it's a girl, you're showing her what a man looks like. So that when it's her turn to go out there and find a man in life, which will happen eventually, those red flags can come up fast. They can say, "Oh no, my dad never spoke to a woman like that," or "My dad always opened the door." And so you're showing them what a man looks like when it's their turn. So, yeah, that's my message for dads: is get in with your family and engage with them.
So I love that. Now I have two powerful questions for you. Number one, let's talk to the people that are dads, but probably are starting to build a business. So they don't have 8 figures right now. They're struggling to build something from scratch. And they're either like, okay, I get food on the table, or I spend time on the table. Like how do you handle that?
Yeah, and so my message is more for the what I call the cash rich, time poor. People that have the money and resources. But a lot of what I said is applicable to anybody at any stage. And what I would suggest to them is you might be in a season where you don't have the resources and you do have to put a lot of time in. I totally get that. And that means less time at the table because you're putting food there, essentially. My suggestion to them is be aware of what you're scaling, because if you're starting a business, it's to grow it and make money. That's everybody's goal. Nobody's goal, hey, start a business just because I'm bored and I don't care about making money. So assuming that you want to make money, you're going to be scaling one of two things. You're going to scale freedom if you do a lot of the stuff we talked about, or you're going to scale chaos if you sort of do it the old way. And so if you're just a one-person show right now, which is fine, that's how all businesses typically start, put in the infrastructure and the frameworks so that as you grow and you bring on new people, they can simply plug into the system and sort of shortcut your path, as opposed to having to grow with chaos and then fix it later. And usually that comes with other unintended consequences of just the imbalance of a family life as well. So that'll give you the best shot when you're starting out if you keep the mind of scaling freedom.
Mm. And maybe that would also apply to someone that doesn't have a family yet, right? So a solo founder, someone that's just starting out. Uh, do you think it's possible actually to start a business and start a family at the same time? Like I'm 29, I'm single. Like, should I be also focusing on creating that, or just stay in my business?
Yeah, I do think it's possible. I mean, that's up to every individual to agree with and feel. But yeah, I think having talked to a lot of founders, and especially some that waited later in life, when you ask them, do they wish they would have started sooner? The answer is almost always yes. And so there's a way of like figuring it out. I don't, I believe in God, so pray to God and say, Lord, bring the right person at the right time, regardless of what the outside circumstance looks like. And then trust that He'll help you through that. God doesn't promise that our life will be easy and free of bumps, but if you can find the person you were destined to be with earlier in life, I think that's a better thing, and they'll know what your dreams and goals are, and they'll support you in that. So yeah, I don't think we have to consciously put off having a family before we have everything together in our business. Because honestly, like I don't think we ever reach that point where we think it's all together. We're always gonna be like, okay, I'm here. I want to go here. Now I want to go here. Now I want to go here. So my thing is, hey, why don't you just bring your family along for the ride?
I love that. Yeah. No, I think many people need to hear that because it's even someone that has made nine figures, right? You don't need to have it figured out because you will never do, right?
Yeah, yeah. When you figure it out, you're gonna have more to figure out. So you never figure it out.
Awesome. So now what's in store? So you're hosting 18 Summers. Tell me a little bit more about that. Like what is it?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there's a number of things going on in my world. I host founder dad dinners at my home in Austin. So anybody interested in that, feel free to reach out. I've written a couple of books, Buyback Time Formula being one of them, which explains the concepts that we discussed of getting yourself out from what I call the founder prison to a freedom focused lifestyle. And then my second book that I wrote is called Before They Stop Asking. It's designed for the high achieving founder dad, but it comes from a more emotional perspective that one day our kids are going to stop asking for our attention. It's either going to happen because we trained them to, hey, give me 5 minutes, and it's never 5 minutes. And over time, they realize I get nothing from dad, so I'm going somewhere else. Or they're 12, 13, 14, 15, and they're too cool for dad for a little period. And then they come back later. But either way, there's an expiration date on our kids needing our attention. And again, it's just part of waking up founder dads to that realization. And then I host another number of virtual events and things like that. But those are the things that are near and dear to my heart at the moment.
What are the trips that are coming up this year or maybe next year with your family?
Yeah, so in the coming year, let's see, we're going to Toronto, Canada, because I have an event that I go to every quarter up there, and we just love going a few extra days before and after just to spend time there. Plan to go to Germany for the Nürburgring. If you're familiar with that, I've done the Nürburgring several times. It's the world's most famous racetrack. Um, yeah, it is super fun. I'll probably go to Sweden once here within the next year or two. I've already done it once, but where we're driving on a frozen lake in 500 horsepower BMWs. What can go wrong? Yeah, just drifting in studded tires. It's so cool. And so yeah, those are the cool type of events that we can do. And like I said earlier, we're up now in our summer home in northern Michigan that we like to utilize when it's not booked out because it is just our paradise. Like the water here is as blue as anywhere in the Caribbean, and it's just our little slice of heaven. So yeah, that's kind of what's coming up for us.
Awesome, man. No, so excited for you and so proud as well. Like you're building something that's whole. It's like most people think that success, especially on social media, is like most people think success is yes, the money and the cars and the women, but what is after that, right? Like that is so vain and so superficial versus like true fulfillment. What would you say to the young people, to the people that are watching those things?
Yeah.
Because you had it, right? You've had those things already.
Absolutely. Yeah. To the people watching it and sort of chasing success, it's like once you get there, you're always going to want more. So there's never like a point where you're like, okay, I'm good, I'm satisfied. Material things will always want you more. I'm not saying materials are bad. You want a nice car, nice clothes. Like we all kind of want some of that stuff, but don't let that be the idol that you pursue and that you define happiness and success on that. I know everybody's going to have their different way and paths of beliefs, but I believe in God. I believe that He loves us all, and I believe He created us with a purpose. And we are asked to ask Him what is our purpose and have Him reveal that for us. And yeah, I think one of the purposes for me is to wake up other founder dads to realize that the clock is ticking and we don't have unlimited time with our children. And so that's my purpose, and that's what excites me and wakes me up every day. And I would do it for free if there wasn't any money involved. So I would say that's a good indicator of what your purpose is. If you could say, I would still do this for free, even if money wasn't involved. And, some people get it quick. Some people, there's a journey to figuring that out. I don't think there's a right or wrong way of doing it, as long as you're aware that there is a purpose and see what it is so that you can get to it and feel that fulfillment.
Amazing, man. And where can people find you, and how can they work with you?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, if my message resonated, you can go to buybacktimeformula.com/freedom. This is especially if you feel that feeling of being successful on paper, but you're missing at home. You can take the Founder Freedom Scorecard, and in about 2 minutes, you'll see exactly where your business is leaking time, profit, and presence, and what to fix first. And like I said, if you're in the Austin area and this conversation hit close to home, I host a small dinner at my house about once a month for founder dads. There's no pitch, no agenda, just men sitting around a table. So if you want a seat, reach out directly. But yeah, those are the ways to get into my world.
Amazing, man. A last question to end it is, you go back 10 years to George, a younger George, trying to hustle, trying to do cool things in the world, trying to build a business. What would you say to him?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably, yeah, a couple of things I'd say is, like, later has a way of becoming never. I used to think that I could use later as a true, like I meant it, but there's a way that it becomes never. And the other thing is, like, the business gets the best of you and your family gets what's left if you're not aware. So make that adjustment. And then the last thing, good men shouldn't have to choose between success and their family. You can have both. You just need to make that decision. So those are some parting thoughts.
Thank you so much, George, for your time.
Thank you, Angel Martin. It's been fun.
Yeah, it is. Hope to see you soon as well. Maybe somewhere in the world.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.